Well, hello, hello, hello. This is Today is Thursday, and I got all these pop ups coming up on my window. So today is Thursday, and I am LaQuita Parks. As you can see, I am the host of your show tonight, The Power of Your Story. And I don't have a guest tonight, so I decided I would do some things differently. Today, I'm going to do some of my favorite things. And so you guys have heard the story: raindrops on roses and whispers on kittens. You guys know that these are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so sad. So, today we're going to do some of my favorite things, and you guessed it, I'm a publisher, so my favorite things are books. So I am going to randomly, so I've chosen a couple of books or a few books that I am going to read from, and I'll tell you the author and I'll tell you where you can pick the book up from. So they're random. There is no rhyme or reason to them. I'm just going to select them. I have books on my desk, books everywhere, books to the left of me, books to the right of me, books in front of me. I don't have books behind me, but as you can see, oh, what are we doing? Pay-per-view publishing. So before we get started, my name is LaQuita Parks, and I am the CEO and founder of Pay-per-view Publishing. And as I tell you every day, every time you hear me, pay-per-view is pain, progress, victory, because I believe without pain, there is no progress. And without progress, there can be no victory. So I help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. So, we're going to talk about some of these thoughts to realizations tonight. And I hope you enjoy it. If you're listening and you hear the replay, purchase, support authors. It's a lot of work getting your story written. So, there are almost 8 billion people on the planet, right? And out of that 8 billion people that's on the planet, half of those, half of, no, 1 billion will actually take the time to write their story. That means they'll take pencil or pen to paper or dictate or whatever they want to do to get that story out. They will go through those steps and take that opportunity to do their stories, but only half of those people will actually publish their stories. So there's power in your story. Your stories are important and your stories need to be told. So I am going to read some excerpts from some of these stories that need to be told. So the first one that I'm going to choose is my fun little book here. My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me. Now, this book was written by Anthony Wallace and yours truly, LaQuita Parks, and it was illustrated by Dominique Robinson. So let's read a little bit of My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me. So, what is this book about? My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me. John and Eric. This book is about John and Eric. You guys can see this. John and Eric became fast friends when Eric and his family moved next door to John and his family. John is white and Eric is black. They are the same age with the same birthday, and they are in the same grade. John is excited because his new friend Eric is just like him, but his skin color is different. So let's read a little bit of My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me. Okay. Early on Saturday morning, John was awakened by the sound of a big truck. For the children who are listening, John jumped out of bed and ran to his bedroom window. He saw a family moving into the house next door. John saw a little boy carrying a box. Pages can be sticky sometimes when you're reading. These pages are super sticky. Okay. John ran to his mother, who was in the kitchen. Mom, he yelled. We have neighbors, and they don't look like me. John noticed their skin was not like his skin. John and his mother walked over to the window, which was in the living room. John's mother Mary said to John, "They are human beings, John, just like us. They just have different color skin." John's mom said, "How about we welcome them to the neighborhood with a fresh glass of lemonade?" Now that's really sweet. Have you guys ever been welcomed to the neighborhood with lemonade? I know I haven't. Okay. John leaped up and down with excitement. "Okay," John said, "that sounds like fun." John and his mom took the lemonade to their new neighbors. John and his mom introduced themselves to the new family and welcomed them to the neighborhood with a nice cold glass of lemonade. John was excited that the new neighbors had a little boy named Eric. Eric and John found out they were the same age and that their birthdays were on the same day. John and Eric became fast friends who loved to ride their bikes and climb trees together. That night, before John fell asleep, he lay on his bed thinking about Eric, his new friend. He thought about how Eric was just like him and loved doing all the same things as him, only he had a different color skin. And that concludes the reading of My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me. Now, if you want to purchase this book, you can purchase it from PayProV Publishing, www.paprovipublishing.com, and we'll be happy to send you an autographed copy. My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me by Anthony Wallace and LaQuita Parks. All right. All right. That was so much fun. Now let's see what other book we have here. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, so I think I want to Rock Bottom. Now, I had the author of Rock Bottom on my show a couple of weeks ago. And if you have not seen that episode with Mr. Robert Brooks, you should, because he was a hot mess. Hot mess. So funny. So, Rock Bottom. This book is called Rock Bottom. It's a modern day story from the biblical parable of the prodigal son. And it's written by Robert E. Brooks. So, what is this book about? We live in a world that is crumbling around us. The Richter scale of problems and pains is off the chart. When a nation decides to push God out, the door is left open for a life built on a 7+1 foundation. Luke 11:25. When the Lord is waiting for someone you love at the bottom of their situation, every time you intercept them from hitting rock bottom, you delay their meeting with God and themselves. Sometimes people end up lost because of our attempts to save them. As the prodigal son came to himself at the bottom of his situation, so it is with some people in our lives. Where is your meeting with God scheduled? I've had my share of meetings with the Lord at rock bottom, not comfortable, but sometimes necessary. Pray that the Lord isn't set up, pray that the Lord doesn't set up a meeting with you at rock bottom. If you can help it, be willing to meet him elsewhere. Rock Bottom is a modern day story from the biblical parable of the prodigal son. Just like the prodigal son, God has provided a way for us to come to ourselves and return back to him. Wow. I love the story of the prodigal son. So this is very interesting. So we're going to read a couple of pages from Rock Bottom. Now, let's see. Let's see what we want to read. Let's read this part here. Okay. As the narrative goes, he began to spend, thrift, and wasted his inheritance on wild women, wine, and wicky wacky weed. In the process of time, after all was lost, including his dignity, he discovered himself in the hog pen of sin, feeding with the swine. This is not such a bad place to be unless you are a Jewish person who does not eat pork. The bottom for this boy was that he was keeping company with the most hated animal to Jewish. Jewish people did not eat pork. Okay. When a person is living life as he pleases, he has tunnel vision and cannot see afar off. This boy never expected a famine in the land. Having money to buy food would not have been of any use to him because there was no food to purchase. We are free to choose. Nevertheless, we can't choose the consequences of our choosing. Listen, there are consequences when we choose right that on the surface seem to be the wrong choice. I'll explain. Bible students remember Joseph, my favorite Bible character, and the messes he found himself in because he always made the righteous choice. Genesis 39. The Godhead made the right divine choice to send Jesus to defeat the devil, sin, hell, and death. Revelations 1:18. Nevertheless, as we peruse through life, of to the life of Jesus, it appears to have been the wrong choice. Genesis 3:15, John 3:16. We watch the agony of Gethsemane, hear the lies denial, crucify him cries, see him tried and crucified. It appears to be the wrong choice. Keep your seat. The first day of the week is on the way. The divine choice was made before the foundation of the world. 2 Timothy 1:9, Revelations 13:8. In the mind of the Father, the Son was crucified before he was born in Bethlehem. We can't wrap our minds around the concept because we have to segment time to handle it. We segment time into yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Was, is, shall be. Yesterday is the tomb, tomorrow is in the womb. Yesterday is a canceled check, tomorrow is a promissory note. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. Yesterday is reconciliation, tomorrow is speculation. With God, everything is in eternal now. With God, yesterday, today, and tomorrow is now. God never has to leave anywhere to get anywhere because he is already where he is going and still be where he's going and never having to leave where he is. God can tiptoe and stand flat footed at the same time. God can take a crooked stick and hit a straight lick. I'm still talking about hitting rock bottom. If we fail to trust the God who can do all of the aforementioned, rock bottom will be our destination. To avoid the far country, it is incumbent on us to submit to the Father's will. And you have to buy the book to get the rest of the story. And this book can also be purchased on payprovpublishing.com. You can also get it on Amazon. But if you get it from Pay Pro V Publishing, you can get an autographed copy. Rock Bottom, Robert E. Brooks. All right. All right. All right. All right. Here's another one. This one is called My Silent Story, The Gun That Saved My Life by Jordan Johnson Christie. Okay. This book, My Silent Story, The Gun That Saved My Life, shares his personal journey about living through the pains of hopelessness, walking through challenging moments, and coming to trust in all life has to offer. Jordan offers a powerful story about healing, living with an open heart, and recognizing that our life matters. Your life matters. This is My Silent Story. So we're going to read chapter 1. How about we read chapter 1? At 2:15 p.m. on April 6, 1989, the alarm on my stopwatch went off. My emotions were numb as I lifted the gun to my chest, pointed it at my heart, and pulled the trigger. Finally, I had made the decision that I was done with living in this world. After months of planning, the day had finally arrived for peace to enter my life, peace to enter my heart. I was tired of hurting and wondering what I had done to deserve the life circumstances I had faced. I was done living in pain. I saw my relatives at a family gathering a few months prior and my mom again one last time over the Easter holiday weekend. I planned my funeral, wrote it out, and left it on the bed. so no one would have to worry about pulling it together. I decided to kill myself on a Thursday so people would have Friday off if needed and go back to their lives on Monday. The funeral would be early the following week. The sound of the gun blast ripped through the school chapel as I sat in the pew waiting for someone to rush through the door. Certainly, I thought, someone had to wonder what made that loud and explosive sound. As I looked over at the side door of the chapel, no one came rushing through the door. But wait, why was I still conscious? Did the gun work? This was not part of the plan. I looked down at my chest to see a small black hole in my shirt and sat there wondering what had happened. Never did I imagine being conscious after pulling the trigger. I looked at the gun and let it drop to the floor in the aisle next to the pew. I contemplated what to do next. No one was rushing through the side door to see what had happened, even though the senior lounge was adjacent to the chapel. I gently rested my head on the pew in front of me, hoping that sooner than later I would fall asleep. I would die. Eventually, I lay down in the pew and tried to hold my breath. If I held it long enough, I would pass out. I would die. Every time I tried to hold my breath, I would gasp for air. My eyes closed, blood filling my lungs and slowly trickling into the pew where I lay. That day changed my life in many ways, in more ways than one. For years, I had contemplated ending my life. Ever since I was about 9 years old, I struggled with suicidal thoughts. I had explored all of the options of ending my life and that seemed possible: drowning, jumping off a cliff, lighting myself on fire, and burning up into ashes. For some reason, I never considered slashing my wrists or overdosing on pills. I would swim at the pool in the apartment complex we were living at and try holding my breath underwater. I would give up and come up for air. I'd walk to the edge of a cliff and stand there looking over, sitting down, wondering what would happen if I jumped. Would I just break my legs or lay there alive until someone found me? I ran by the cliff that I considered jumping off the other day, and all my feelings and thoughts came rushing back. Reflecting on my thought process immediately, would my legs break or would I successfully kill myself if I jumped? I was tired of living with intense emotional pain. I had given up on having any faith that my life would be different. Death would be the only solution. I reasoned to find peace in my heart. Never again would I have to worry about how I could survive in peace in this world. I was 17 years old, terrified of graduating from high school, unsure of where I wanted life to take me, scared about financially supporting myself, and realizing that the only time I truly felt confident about anything was when I was playing basketball. As a kid, I struggled. No stability in my home life. Mom struggled to find jobs that would bring financial security to her life and mine. I was tired and wanted relief. I was done with life. Today, recalling the moment I pulled the trigger, it was like it happened 5 minutes ago. I still hear the sound of the gun going off, sitting, waiting to die, and the voices murmuring when I was found. Voices were faint as I was rolled out to the ambulance, and the EMTs were talking on the way to the emergency room. Vaguely, I captured a few words being spoken about my status at the hospital. People were swarmed around me, and before you know it, my arms were stretched out onto the side in the emergency room. Here we go. A sharp pain went racing through my left side, and I screamed. I remember breaking away from the nurses or doctors who were holding my arms out while they cut me open to insert a chest tube to drain blood from my lungs. I was screaming at the doctor inserting the tube. No anesthesia given. No time to waste. My body was in shock. Suddenly, voices were telling me that other tubes also would be put into my body. I felt a tube go slithering down my nose. I could see the doctors and nurses and interns standing at the foot of my bed as I lifted my head. Get a blanket, I begged. I'm cold. Their faces were almost a blank stare. Who was more in shock, them or me? I didn't know. I'm cold. I'm cold, I kept telling them. I was dying. That's why I was cold and shivering. The clock was ticking as time was rushing, it was running out to save me. As I was rolled out to have surgery, I heard a woman crying hysterically in the hallway. Was that my aunt? What was happening? I had no idea of what I looked like as I thought I was dying. That was the first day of the rest of my life at age 17. Little did I realize how my life was about to change. Woo! That was heavy. This book is called My Silent Story, The Gun That Saved My Life by Jordan Johnson Christie. This book is available on Amazon.com. This book is heavy. And so, listen, if you're listening to me and you are depressed, you're dealing with depression, and you're considering not wanting to live anymore, please, please talk to someone. Talk to someone. There's help out there. There is help. Okay. My Silent Story, The Gun That Saved My Life. And I know this person, and this person lived to tell this story. Okay. Whew, that was kind of heavy. All right. Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's go to Good Morning Friends. Now, this is Good Morning Friends by yours truly, LaQuita Parks. And this book is a book of inspiration for your day. And this says, in our daily lives, in our daily lives, within our walks of faith, we will go through some rough times. But remember that just like troubles, storms don't last always. In the midst of our storms, we must seek the Lord and run to Him for shelter, where His love will protect us and give us the strength we need to endure. We need not fear the bad weather, for there is peace in Jesus Christ. We should meditate on God's promises and be strong. Even when the storms of life are raging, just give thanks and keep praising God. In prayer, we draw closer to God and believe that His blessings are upon us. Be still and know that God is God, and He is better equipped to handle our storms than we are. We are His, created in His image, and He loves us. Good Morning Friends is a daily dose of inspiration to help you through your day. All right, so let's dive into Good Morning Friends. Okay, so I'm just going to flip through here and find something that's interesting to read. Okay, so let's see. Good morning, friends. What's shaking up your world? Is it finances, family, friends, faith, sickness, or broken relationships? It's easy to lose hope when the storms of life are raging, but there is one thing that we can stand upon when everything around us seems to be sinking: the unshakable and unsinkable promises of God. We live in an unshakable world where threats are made, promises are broken, stock markets crash, jobs are lost, and relationships crumble. When we build our lives on the everlasting promises of God and the pillars of our faith is tested, we can live unshakable in a shaken world. If you have a problem, God has a promise. His promises stand the test of time, and they weather life's biggest storms. Maybe you feel like the bitter struggles of life has knocked you on your face. Be encouraged. There is no storm in our lives that Jesus cannot calm. Mark 4:37 through 41. Loving you out loud on purpose with purpose. Be blessed in your day. Good morning, friends. It is easy to believe what we think we see. Faith is trusting and believing without seeing. Trusting God calls for walking by faith, not by feelings or fear. Whatever you might be going through, hold your head up and look to the hills from which cometh your help. God can and God will. Trust and believe. Take the time to make someone's day. You have the power to be a blessing to someone. Loving you out loud, on purpose, with purpose. Oh, I like these. The person who wrote this was so smart. That would be me. All right, let's read one more. Good morning, friends. This life is filled with troubles and strife, and I am so glad that I made the decision to give my life to Christ and become a Christian. That means leaving behind my old worldly thoughts and views and trusting not in man, but in God. It also means taking responsibility for my choices and holding others accountable for theirs. I fully understand that this life is temporary and I will have to give an answer to every act done in the flesh. This includes in word and in deed. So, my point, friends, is that we must live our lives in such a way that there is no question what our answers will be when we are before the Father. Do not allow your reactions to life's verdicts to cause you to miss heaven. God is powerful enough to handle every situation, including what's going on in the White House, the State House, the outhouse, or your house. We all have a part to play, and place and blame is not it. Today is an excellent day for you to start making a positive difference in someone else's life. You have the power to make it so. Peace and blessings, food for thought. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Matthew 28 and 18. Good morning, friends. If you want the rest of the story, you want some inspiration for your day, Good Morning Friends is written by LaQuita Parks, and you can pick it up from payprovpublishing.com. Get yourself an autographed copy. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I'm LaQuita Parks. Of course, I'm your host. And today we are doing a few of my favorite things. And my favorite things are books, of course. And so you guys know the song, especially at Christmas time. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so sad. Okay, so we're talking about a few of my favorite things. So, what's the next book I'm gonna choose? How about my new book? This is a new author that was just published. This book is called Liberty City. And this book is all about Liberty City. What happened in Liberty City? Okay. And so I've never been to Liberty City. Hey, Jacqueline Cox. Hey, girl. Hey. I've never been to Liberty City, but after I finished reading this book, Jacqueline says, no, but we were here first. Okay. I've never been to Liberty City. However, Liberty City is, most of you guys know, let's see, I received lemon cookies. My neighbors don't look like me either. I then received a bag of lemons because I use lots of them. Okay, you know what? This person is talking about my neighbors don't look like me. So good afternoon. Thank you, Facebook user. My neighbors don't look like me. Now, very powerful. Thank you. Now, I said I never got any lemonade, but you know what? I now have a neighbor, but I've been in my house for 15 years now. But my neighbor does come randomly. She will just knock on my door, and she's prepared dinner, and I think that's very sweet of her. So we take care of each other, but we look the same. Now, I have a neighbor that lives next to me that does not look like me. And sometimes he's friendly, sometimes he isn't. The one thing I like about him is that when I'm cutting my grass or when my grass has been cut, he will come outside and cut his grass, even if it's just on my side, just so that my grass won't look bad. And I think that's pretty cool. So that's pretty cool. So we do what we do. So this is Liberty City, and I'm going to read a few excerpts from Liberty City. I'm just going to randomly select this Liberty City. It is by Travis, written by Travis Williams. Okay, so I am going to, let's just start here. Listen, I'm just reading excerpts from the book. So if you guys want to purchase the books, I'll tell you where you can get them from. Okay. In Liberty City back in the day, we had values and morals for the hood. We governed our streets and we didn't disrespect our elders. Our elders gave us wisdom and enlightened us on whatever topic was necessary for us to learn and grow. They checked us when we were wrong. The hood in the city was all over our moms and dads. Our spirits were violated. We didn't have to wait until we were in jail or prison to find the Bible and ask God for forgiveness and repent for our sins. When we went on a caper and one of us was apprehended by the law and the other person escaped, we didn't sing like a parrot on the other person who was with us. Back in the day, your homie or the men and women had your back. They didn't leave you for dead. And if they did, we didn't parrot him out. We handled our personal business with him. The times have changed. People have a child support mentality. They will crucify you, then put the law on you. It's no justification for gossiping about people. Things can go wrong, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who's in the streets of Liberty City. Stop feeling disappointed in the moves suckers make due to their shortcomings. If you doubt the suckers you make a play with, have a backup plan. Do your homework on anybody you come in contact with? Go to night school on that person. If you have to question his loyalty, then that connection isn't the right face value for you. They are a more rest in peace type of person. Rest in peace if the play don't go right. We never shoot the hood up. We know who held the bank and we had to make a deposit in it. Nothing was a petty decision. There was no problems with there was no problems that were too big that couldn't be resolved by having a simple conversation with that person. We respected each other's opinions or feelings and found a way to come to grips with a peaceful resolution. We helped the older people in our community. We had chores around our house. By taking care of our home, it taught us family values. We cut the grass for our homes and the neighbors as well. We made our beds before leaving home to go outside anywhere. We picked up our clothes off the floor. We hung our clothes on the clotheslines in the backyard once they were finished in the washing machine to help out. When an ingredient was missing, we went to the store for our mom or dad while the meal was being prepared. We took the garbage out once we finished eating dinner at night and placed it out front for the garbage man to pick up from the house on the day it was designated. In the streets, we held each other down. We built trust among each other. We weren't one without the other. Nothing came between us. We believed in teamwork makes the dream work, and we lifted one another up. We valued each other's friendship. We didn't talk behind each other's back with secret counseling. Backbiting is a spirit. We were innocent because we knew that our sons walked with the principles of men. Nowadays, people be rocking and riding with the wind. We got to get our innocence back. Let us return pride back into Liberty City. It's the heart of excitement and the root of the entire Liberty City. It's the circulation to the whole city of Dade County. There are real people in our hub of the city. This book is to bring awareness to the hood of the Liberty City that I grew up in. It's not a reflection of trying to downplay any other area in Miami-Dade County. It's just me uplifting the Liberty City community. This book is about Liberty City, and I hope that I can inspire the people to bring pride and values back to our community and inspire others to share their side of town. The values must be restored in our neighborhood. That gives us an opportunity to become better people. We shouldn't fear the progress that we don't understand because of the nature of the environment. Our values have changed. We are not conscious and don't care about the people and the neighborhood anymore. We have started to lose our values by embracing the rats and throwing them parties when they get released from being incarcerated. A rat is like a zombie. He has been bitten. Although he looks like our boys, he has turned into someone else in order to survive from the choices he made by being on the streets. The rats are supposed to look out for their rodent brothers. When they turn, we have to check them out. He needs to be investigated, and you need to stop embracing what he used to be. All stand-up dudes aren't good dudes either because they're grimy. They make it bad for the sacrifice you made to endure. By placing fear in other people and not giving them a chance to see your worth, when you know you stood up straight and wasn't a creep, you played fair and you crossed the line and they crossed the line, then they make you out to be the villain and they're the victim. It makes you question yourself. Did I really know these guys? Because they really don't know you. They have their ears to the politics of the gospel. They view you in the light of what they heard about you and not wanting to come into contact with you. Get to know them for yourself because they are misguided from the word of mouth of someone who has done you wrong. Remember, rats are always going to share cheese, it's in their nature. They are going to stick together, so charge it to the game. It's their loss. The harsh reality of life goes on with you or without. They embrace the culture because they have the same lingo and swag, but he was turned and bitten. He's a zombie, not Tom, John, Dick, Harry, or Joe. Woo! All right now. Travis Williams, you said that, man. Liberty City. Liberty City. Now, if you want to purchase Liberty City, it can be purchased from payprovpublishing.com. You can connect with the author, Travis Williams. Travis's book just came out. We just released this book and it's amazing. You can see this was just an excerpt. So if you guys want the book, reach out, payprovpublishing.com. Get yourself an autographed copy. Liberty City by Travis Williams. Did y'all hear him? He said they was rats. Y'all know what rats are? Yes, you do. All right. All right. We got a couple more. I'm going to read this one. This is the newest one. Unknown Battlefields. And I see my good friend, author Jacqueline Cox is in the house. So I'm going to read an excerpt from somebody very, very special to her. And his name is Marvis Cox. All right. Unknown Battlefields. Okay. So I am going to start with the introduction here. Well, you know what? I am not going to start with the introduction. I am going to go straight to Mr. Marvis Cox's story. And his story is called Death is a Release. Okay. Here we go. All right. The day seemed normal as usual. Birds were chirping and people were singing ala Ubaka over the city. I know I said that wrong. Eeriness filled the atmosphere as the temperature started to increase. It's going to be hot one day. It's going to be a hot one today, said one of my fellow soldiers pulling guard with me. We were almost done with our 12-hour guard shift, and I could only think about taking a shower and getting some rest. Things happening unexpectedly became routine. Watching the nights turn into days became normal 6 months into the deployment. 30 minutes left until our replacement comes, and I see a bunch of kids running toward our guard shack screaming, Mister, help us. Alibaba is trying to kill our family. Everything was in an uproar, and the guns were drawn because we couldn't figure out if this was a trick or an attack, or a trick to attack us. 7 Marines had already died weeks before from a scheme similar to this one, so we had to be extremely cautious and stern. Get back! Don't come any closer. I signaled one of the soldiers to call headquarters with everything that was happening. I told the other 2 soldiers to keep their guns drawn just in case things got crazy and to cover me while I assessed the situation. I was able to calm the kids while carefully observing their body language. My gut instinct gave me the reassurance something was terribly wrong. One of the older kids had blood on his back and shoulders, as if they had been fighting or helping somebody in need. Please come quick. Alibaba is killing my family. Headquarters sent down a QFR, Quick Reaction Force, team to further investigate the situation. The QRF team searched the kids to ensure nobody had weapons or bombs attached to them. The team leader wanted me to go with them since I had already built a good rapport with the kids. We crossed the barbed wire and moved in a wedge formation to the objective. We kept the kids in the middle while gathering intel for this mission. As we approached the building, people started to run away as if they knew bad guys were waiting to attack. The kids started pointing and shouting, "There, there." A door was hanging off the hinges and blood was on the wall. Then a man came out with a knife in his hand. The kids screamed, "Alibaba!" The team approached him carefully while giving strict orders to drop the gun and get on the ground. We detained the individual as the other team rushed into the building to aid the wounded. Two soldiers stood the attacker up as the team leader called for the interpreter. I couldn't have blinked my eyes more than 5 seconds before I saw the attacker try to take the team leader's rifle away from him. I immediately took action and disarmed the attacker with great force. The mission was a success, but I hyperextended my knee during the process. I was on crutches until my knee healed, but I couldn't perform my job as the lieutenant's driver. I had to make sure and study all the roads and landmarks before heading out on a mission. The lieutenant was a man of few words, but he knew his job. He was always cool under pressure, but had zero tolerance for BS. Even though he had the map in his hand, the lieutenant never made eye contact, just pointed left or right, and he expected the driver to know when to turn or stop just by his hand signals. I knew how much he trusted me to drive, and it felt like I was letting my guys down due to my injury. That evening, my lieutenant came to my room asking how I was doing. I was shocked because this is something that doesn't usually happen. He told me how great of a job I had done taking down the guy who tried to take the QRF team leader's rifle and would soon put me in for an award. He told me that a new driver was needed since I was injured. He wanted to know about a fellow soldier and wondered if he could perform the task. I told him sure, once given a chance. He gave a smirk and said, "Get better soon. I need my driver." Without eye contact, he walked away, and that was it. The next day, my company was tasked with a critical mission. It involved a dangerous highway where my team and I were last ambushed. I remember watching as everybody left. I told them good luck. I felt so disappointed I wasn't going with them. A few hours later, tragedy struck. I was manning the radio when I heard the news. The lieutenant and my buddy had to be medically evacuated. They hit an IED and were hurt extremely bad. The lieutenant shattered his left leg and fractured his pelvis, and the new driver lost both legs with multiple fragments to his face. I was devastated by this information. How could this be? All the while, I couldn't help but think that it could have been me. I still feel responsible for what happened to my buddy. I often wonder if he holds a grudge and truly forgave me for what happened. We keep in touch, and I am careful not to bring up the subject because I don't want to open old wounds and lose a friend. This was written by Marvis Cox. And Marvis Cox was born in Chicago, Illinois. He entered into the United States Army Infantry. E5 Sergeant was his final rank. He entered the Army in 2001 and was sent to Iraq to serve in the war of Operation Iraqi Freedom for 9/11. Marvis did 9 years overseas, 3 deployments, and was honorably discharged due to service-connected disabilities from the war. Marvis has been happily married for 7 years to his wife, Jacqueline. They have a blended family of 5 children, of whom he loves deeply. Marvis graduated college in 2015 with 2 associate's degrees from Warbonese College. He is a life coach for urban and troubled youth and is also a motivational speaker. Marvis plans to continue to write and give back to his community as much as possible. He hopes to one day open his own nonprofit so troubled youth can come and learn discipline and leadership skills to assist them with becoming successful despite the difficulties and challenges of their environment. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This is an excerpt from Unknown Battlefields. And yes, Unknown Battlefields can be purchased from Pay Pro V Publishing. Get your autographed copy. And you can reach out to Marvis and any one of the authors, Marvis and Don Martini, David Mills, Brandon Darrington, Takia Chase Smith, Greg Cummings, Mary Beal, who else? Curtis Abrams, Kevin Eastman, and of course, yours truly. Pay-per-view Publishing, Unknown Battlefields. So I think we have time for one more, maybe. Let's see. How about, will somebody please teach me how to be a man? Okay. This book is My Personal Journey into Manhood by Anthony Wallace. Let's see. It has been a long road for me to travel. The journey has been dark and full of rain. The process of becoming a man happened long after I was of adult age. The years I would spend being like a dog chasing his tail. The mistakes I would make would create a resentment that I would harbor for the man that I looked at in the mirror every day. Yet I had a sickness lying deep within me. That sickness was like a cancer that chewed away my hopes, blurred my vision, and took away my voice. Wow. Listen, I got to take a sip of water for this because my throat is dry. So if you're just tuning in, and we have about 15 minutes, maybe, roughly, we are doing a few of LaQuita's favorite things. Now, my favorite things are books. So I have been reading excerpts from these books this day. And so I have read an excerpt from Rock Bottom, an excerpt from My Silent Story, an excerpt from Good Morning Friends, an excerpt from My Neighbors Don't Look Like Me, an excerpt from Liberty City, and just finished reading an excerpt from Unknown Battlefields. Now, let's take a look into, will somebody please teach me how to be a man? Wow. All right. Let's see where we would start. So, how about we start at the beginning? How about we do that? Let's read the dedication. My heart goes out to all the young men who feel the suffocating squeeze of not having a father. It's hard to mimic what you don't see before your eyes every day. I can relate to the empty feeling of that deep, unsettling void of being fatherless. A father is a show of strength. A father's correction mixed with love brings about a trait in a young man that will help shape his character for the future. The strong voice of a man in the home is a blanket of security. Having a father is no doubt one of the greatest blessings any young man could ever ask for. Every boy wants to play with his dad and feel the embrace of a good son pat on his head. They watch everything their dad does and only repeat what they see. What happens to those young men who don't have a dad? How are they to learn anything about growing into manhood? The cold winds of life will knock you down without proper guidance. It's difficult for a young man to learn with each process of growth. After all, there is only so much a mother can teach a young boy about being a man. I want to encourage all of you young men that you can survive just like I did. God's grace and my willingness to learn about being a man really is what got me here today. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but you can survive through all of life's difficulties with those around you who love you. I realize every young boy needs a father, but if you have a strong mother in your life, God can give her the strength to get you to where you need to be. In your growth process, take help where you can get it as long as it is coming from a reliable source. Having mentors and other men around you will also help develop you as you get older. Remember, you aren't the only one who grew up not having a dad. I cried more tears than I care to share, but I survived and you can too. This book is dedicated to all of you who are experiencing the same pain that I once experienced. The sun will shine through the dark clouds in your life, showing you that a better day will come. Don't give up. You can make it. Wow. What a powerful introduction. All right. So let's read a little bit and then we will go on and close out. This chapter is called No Foundation. My mother was born in Mount Sterling, Kentucky. She was one of 7 children, 3 girls and 4 boys. Mount Sterling was considered the country. It was a lower class area, and most of the families in those days were struggling. My mother grew up in a chaotic household where she would constantly see her parents argue, fuss, and fight. With loud screams coming from her parents' bedroom, rarely was there any peace. One day after years of fighting, my grandmother packed up the children and moved 110 miles away to Cincinnati, Ohio, leaving my grandfather behind in Mount Sterling. Although I can say, Although I can't say what all the fighting was about, I'm certain that alcoholism played a key role because my grandmother took it along with her to Cincinnati. Although my grandmother had moved miles away, there was one habit that she had that she would pass down to all her children, and that was an addiction to alcohol. It seemed that my mother and most of her siblings would all struggle with alcohol addiction. Even though my mother loved my grandmother, their relationship wasn't a healthy one, and since she didn't really have the relationship she needed with her father, her desire for love was great. My mother was a very attractive woman with a beautiful caramel pecan complexion. She had long, pretty hair and a smile that would catch the eye of any man. My mother met and married my sister's father when she was only 16 years old. Back then, as long as you had the parents' consent, you could get married, even if you were only 16. There she was, a young girl turned wife and mother who had yet to live. She was heartbroken when her husband was arrested for rape and had to spend several years in prison, leaving her to raise their daughter alone. My mother was young and full of life. She wanted what any young person wanted, and that was just to have fun. In spite of everything that was going on in her life, she always found time to go out drinking and dancing. The fact that she was underage didn't stop her from getting into bars and being served alcohol. My mother would meet my father on one of those nights. His good looks and the way he was dressed caught her attention, but his charm is what drew her in. He invited her to the dance floor and they danced until they both had sweat running down their faces. The fun would progress all way past just hanging out at bars. It was a fantasy for a young married woman whose husband was in prison, but soon that fun would lead them both to a sobering reality. My mother and father's relationship was all about having fun. There was no commitment, in fact. They stopped seeing each other not long after a few sexual experiences. My father was a typical young man, a ladies' man who was just looking for some fun, and he saw a good time with my young mother. They were both young, and after the music stopped, the fun ended, and they went their separate ways. My father moved on, and so did my mother. My mother would run into my father every now and then. Sometimes they would speak and sometimes they wouldn't. She began hanging out with another man who would later become my brother's father. My father's attitude toward the situation was one of little concern. He really didn't care that she had moved on because so had he. After all, he was a ladies' man and he had no intentions of ever looking back in her direction. Reality would bite my mother like a venomous snake when she found herself pregnant with me. What was she going to do? How was she going to explain being pregnant when her husband was locked away in prison? Her first thought was to have an abortion. She even thought about trying to abort me herself. My mother didn't have the best thoughts about having me, and one of her closest friends was encouraging her to go ahead and try to self abort by using a coat hanger. Back in the day, unwed women and or women who found themselves in these unwanted situations would use a clothes hanger in an effort to kill the fetus. Although my life has been one of tremendous pain and turmoil, I am grateful that my mother did at least abandon the thought of aborting me. Once my mother made the decision to keep me, she wanted to inform the man she knew was responsible for the child she was carrying. She was several months pregnant when she finally caught up with him. She heard that he was at one of the bars they frequented, so off she went to give him the news. When she walked in, she spotted him at the bar having a drink and laughing with some friends. My father had not seen her walk in, so he was a bit startled when she tapped him on his shoulder and asked if she could speak with him. His entire demeanor changed as she stood up with his drink in hand and followed her to the corner where they could talk in private. He immediately noticed her protruding belly, and before she could say anything, he looked at her and said, "Congratulations. Who's the lucky man?" My mother looked him in the face and said, "You are the lucky man." "What?" my father said. Anger started welling up from the pit of his stomach. How dare she try to pin this baby on me? He knew she had been messing around with another man, so why me, he thought. Before he knew it, he had thrown the drink he had in his hand right in her face. He was mad. He walked out of the bar and left her standing there with brown liquor dripping down her face. She stood there humiliated and embarrassed, trying to fight back the tears. All she could do was pick up a napkin to dry her face. She barely made it out of the bar before a river of tears started flowing. My mother was heartbroken by yet another man. First her father, then her husband, now my father. Here she was carrying this man's baby, and he didn't even believe the child was his. He didn't even stay around long enough to ask for a paternity test. I believe this was the moment that her resentment for me, for him and me, the child that would be born to look just like him, began. Woo! Listen, this is deep. So, will somebody please teach me how to be a man? Written by Anthony B. Wallace. Listen, you want to know the rest of the story? You got to buy the book. You can purchase this book, you guessed it, at payprovpublishing.com. Purchase the book, get yourself an autographed copy. Woo, this has been a different show, but it has been wonderful. These are a few of my favorite things. I love books. I love reading and I love people. There is power in your story. So you guys know the song, My Favorite Thing. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things. And then I don't feel so bad. Listen, reading is fundamental. Reading opens your mind to an imagination that you didn't even know existed. And I love being a publisher because I get the opportunity to help people take their stories from a thought to a realization. So tell your story. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, think about writing your story if you have not written it. All you have to do is take pen to paper and just start. Dictate your story to yourself because 100% of everybody living and dead has a story. And these were just a few of the stories from these are true stories. Now, every story is not a trauma story. Your story can be a happy story. Whatever it is, whatever has made you who you are, whatever has you have celebrated, whatever has made your heart glad. If it's your conversion, I have an amazing conversion story of how I was converted and I became baptized into Christ. It's an amazing story. So this has been wonderful. Thank you all for tuning in. For those of you who are listening live, somebody said this was such a compelling read. Thank you so much for engaging with me as I read. These are a few of my favorite things. All the preachers' wives, somebody said, great show, LaQuita. Thank you, whoever that is. I appreciate that. Listen, tell your story. Tell your story. This has been amazing. If I can do anything to help you, please reach out to me at payprovpublishing.com. And listen, this has been great. I will see you here next Thursday, same bat time, same bat station. Listen, this has been a plump, pleasing pleasure. Better than a triple decker peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And when the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so sad. It's been real. Have a good one. Bye bye.